The Vanishing Town and the Weeping Woman. This happened to me when I was traveling through Mexico last year. I swear, I still get chills thinking about it. I was backpacking alone, exploring small villages, old churches, and ancient ruins. One night, my bus broke down in the middle of nowhere. The driver told me there was a town nearby, San Isidro. It wasn't on my map, but I had no choice. When I arrived, something felt wrong. The streets were empty. No people, no cars, no sounds except for the wind and the creaking of old wooden signs. A few stray dogs stood at a distance, watching me, their eyes reflecting the dim streetlights. I found a small inn. An old woman opened the door. Her skin was wrinkled, her eyes cloudy, like she had seen too much. She didn't ask me anything, just handed me a candle and pointed to a room. As I walked down the dark hallway, she whispered, "Lock your door, no matter what you hear." That night, I woke up to a sound. Tap, tap, tap. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but then I heard it again. Tap, tap. It was coming from the window. Slowly, I turned my head, and she was there. A woman in a torn black dress. Her hair was long, wet, and covering most of her face. But her eyes, they were pure white. She pressed her hands against the glass, her mouth moving like she was whispering something, but no sound came out. I couldn't move. My chest felt heavy, like something was sitting on me. Then she screamed. The sound wasn't human. It was high-pitched, painful, like something crying and laughing at the same time. The window cracked. The candle went out, and suddenly my door burst open. The old woman ran in, throwing something at the window while chanting in Spanish. The woman outside let out one final, inhuman wail before disappearing into the darkness. The old woman turned to me, her face pale. "La Llorona," she whispered. I wanted to leave. I wanted to run. But outside, the streets were covered in thick fog. I could hear something crying in the distance. The old woman grabbed my wrist. "If you hear her crying, it's already too late." I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just waited for morning. At sunrise, I grabbed my things and ran. But when I turned back to look at the town, it was gone. No streets, no buildings, no inn, just an empty field. I checked my phone, no signal. No record of a town called San Isidro anywhere. But the worst part, when I got back to the city, I looked in the mirror. My eyes were bloodshot, my face pale, and on my arm, there was a handprint, a wet, ice-cold handprint. I wish I could tell you that was the end of it, that I left Mexico, shook it off, and moved on with my life. But I didn't. Something followed me. At first, it was little things, a wet footprint on my hotel floor when I stepped out of the shower, the sound of dripping water when nothing was leaking, the feeling of being watched whenever I passed by a dark window. Then the dreams started. I would wake up in my own bed, paralyzed. A shadowy figure would stand in the corner of my room, sobbing. Every night, she got closer, first by the door, then at the foot of my bed, then right beside me. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I could only listen to her cry. One night, I woke up gasping for air because she was on top of me. Her freezing hands pressed against my throat, her white, empty eyes staring into mine. Her mouth moved, but I still couldn't hear her words. But I felt them. "You saw me. You heard me. Now, you are mine." I don't remember how I escaped that night. Maybe I blacked out. Maybe I never woke up at all. But when I did, my arms were covered in scratches. My bed sheets were damp, smelling of stagnant water. And on my nightstand was something that shouldn't have been there. A small, dirt-covered pendant. Rusty, broken. The same one the old woman in San Isidro had worn around her neck. I knew then I had to get help. I went to a curandero, a spiritual healer. I didn't tell him anything. I just walked in and he froze. He took one look at me and said, "She's still with you." He gave me a cleansing, burning herbs, whispering prayers in Spanish. I could feel something heavy being pulled from my chest, like a rope tightening around me was finally being cut. But when he finished, he looked worried. "This will keep her away," he said, handing me a small red pouch filled with herbs and salt. "But she won't stop looking." I didn't sleep for days. I kept every light on, played loud music at night, refused to look into mirrors after dark, and slowly the signs faded. No more wet footprints, no more sobbing, but sometimes when I'm alone, I still feel it. Until next time, keep your lights on, your doors locked, and don't forget to subscribe. You never know what's hiding in the dark.